Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to see you again. Well, next Tuesday is the day after Labor Day, which means in my area, the kids are going back to school. Now, I don't have any children of my own, although I did inherit 3 grandchildren. And many of you have asked me to adopt you. And of course, I always say yes. Come to think of it, I probably have more children than most people. And some of those children are even older than I am. How's that for a stunning circumstance? To celebrate the return to school, we are going to make a back-to-school afternoon tea. We're going to make some tea sandwiches and some scones and a fabulous, or what I hope will be a fabulous, chocolate zucchini cake. And I have zucchini right here from my garden. I need 4 cups of shredded zucchini. Now you can shred zucchini in seconds in a food processor, but I need the exercise, so I'm going to shred my zucchini by hand. I can tell you right now that this cake turned out fabulously well. I will link the recipe in the description box below. So let's see if I have 4 cups here. Yay, 4 cups. I will throw the remaining shredded zucchini on a salad. Let me clean the decks, and then we can move on to the dry ingredients. So we need flour. This recipe does not give measurements by weight, and I wish it did, because we can always be more accurate with weight measurements rather than volume. But I'm sure this will work out fine. Cocoa powder. Salt. And then whisk. I also need 2 teaspoons of baking soda. And whisk that right in. And we can set this aside. Then we need the stand mixer, or you could use electric beaters. Paddle attachment. So now we need oil. The recipe says canola oil. I'm using avocado oil. So there's no butter in this recipe. In you go. White granulated sugar. Brown sugar. Eggs. And vanilla. This is the vanilla that you and I made together, and it is powerfully delicious. And then we have to mix all of these ingredients together. And now that these ingredients are well blended, we are to mix in sour cream. And again, all of the ingredients and measurements are listed in the recipe that I will link in the description below. And now we can add the dry ingredients to the wet. I was supposed to add the zucchini before I added the dry ingredients, too late now. This batter looks very delicious, even without the zucchini. But I'm adding the zucchini now. Okay, I think we are mixed enough. Now I have to prepare my bundt pan. I am going to spray it with baking spray. Baking spray contains flour. And I'm going to grease this very, very well. And there we have it. And this goes into a preheated 350 Fahrenheit or 180 Celsius oven until it puffs and a skewer inserted into the center comes out clean. That's supposed to take about 70 minutes. I'm going to get cleaned up here, and then we can get started on the scones. I have just washed my mixing bowl and my paddle attachment because we are going to make the scones. And fortunately, my recipe for scones lists measurements by weight in addition to US measurements of all-purpose flour, salt, baking powder. Now, I call this recipe my best scones because I did develop it, and it does make the best scones. It makes scones that hold up to lots of creme fraiche or clotted cream and jam and sugar. And I want to mix these ingredients just to combine them. Then I need butter, which I have diced. This is cold butter. And the nice thing about using the stand mixer is that it will very easily cut the butter into the flour. It takes about 2 minutes to do that. And while the butter is being cut into the flour, I'm going to go ahead and measure out my buttermilk. Some of the buttermilk went into my glass measure. And I'm going to add a couple of beaten eggs directly to the buttermilk. And I can just whisk them together. And this is just what I'm looking for. Little pieces of butter mixed in with the flour. And now we can add the buttermilk and eggs. And mix just until all of the flour is thoroughly moistened. And there, our scone dough is ready. I need my marble board. I'm going to very lightly flour my board. This is a beautiful dough, very easy to work with. Now, I'm going to put a very small amount of flour on top. And then knead the dough just until it's fairly smooth. So these are not fall apart scones. Again, they are light, they are moist, but they are firm enough to hold up to whatever toppings you put on them. Then I want to cover the dough with a damp towel, and I'm going to let it rest for 10 to 15 minutes, just so that all of the flour particles have absorbed the moisture. And now we need to interrupt this scone recipe because our chocolate zucchini cake is ready. And it looks and smells just beautiful. I need to let this cool in the pan for about 10, maybe 12 minutes, and then we can unmold it. And now we can return to the scones, which have rested for about 15 minutes. And I need to increase the oven temperature from 350 Fahrenheit to 375 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 190 degrees Celsius. And now to our scones. Going to lightly flour the top. I need to put something under this marble board so it doesn't rock about. It's not the board that's at fault, it's my workstation. And one of you mentioned that I could have my contractor plane this wooden workstation so that it is perfectly even. And maybe I will do just that. And then I want to roll this out to roughly a 3/4 inch thick circle. I'm going to need a little more flour. I think we are good. So now I want to put a little flour over here so that I can flour my 2-inch diameter cutter. And when you cut out scones, you want to press straight down. In other words, don't twist the cutter. If you twist, it will pinch the edge of the scone, and then the scone won't rise to its fullest potential. And I'm going to place these scones on, well, I have a Silpat lined baking tray, but you could use a parchment lined tray. Now I've gathered the scraps so that I can roll out the scrappy dough. I don't even have to roll it out. I can just pat it. Now the nice thing about these scones is that you do not have to bake all of them at one time. You can form them, freeze them, and then bake them off whenever you need fresh scones. I'm only going to bake 6 scones today, so I will remove the others to this baking tray so that I can freeze them along with these scones. And into the freezer it goes. And once those scones are solidly frozen, I will simply transfer them to a Ziploc bag or some other freezer bag. We clean up here, and then we can glaze the scones. I'm going to glaze these scones with one very small beaten egg. Now, I very often will top the egg wash scones with some coarse sugar. But I'm not going to do that today because I think we already have enough sugar in the chocolate zucchini cake. So these can go into the oven until they puff and turn golden brown, which will take anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes. Right, it has been about 12 minutes, and I think this cake is ready to be unmolded. And I'm going to put it on this rather bluish turquoise cake stand. Say a prayer. Ta-da! Oh, it looks gorgeous. Now the cake is still very, very hot. We need to let it cool before we can glaze it. Meantime, I think our scones are probably ready. Move this aside. Now, bundt cakes freeze perfectly well. So if you have children or grandchildren and you'd like to treat them to afternoon tea, you can make a cake like this one days, weeks, or even months ahead of time. Well, the scones look as beautiful as the cake does. They're nice and golden on the top. Now, if you have not tried these scones before, I hope you will give them a try because they are really spectacular. I need to let these cool for a bit. And in the meantime, before we make the tea sandwich or the tea sandwiches, I want to arrange some flowers. I already have this arrangement and everything is from my garden, but I think we can find some other flowers to perk this up a little. Look at the beautiful San Marzano tomatoes that we harvested up in the kitchen garden. And there are many, many, many more of them still on the vines. So in the next video, well, I think the next video is going to be a Q&A, but maybe it will be a Q&A, and at the beginning or the end, I will make a tomato pie. So most of these flowers in this arrangement still look great. And I've already tugged the leaves off of the snapdragons that we just harvested, so they can go right into the vase after I add a little more water to it. just a reminder, these are the snapdragons and zinnias that you and I grew together from seed last winter. This is what we have so far. Now the snapdragons that have bent stems, I simply tuck at the edge of the vase so the flowers will drape over the edge like this. And here are some of the David Austin roses. Oh, very, very fragrant and very thorny, so I have to be careful here. Let's see how I can do this. Well, that was easy to do. And the greens in this vase are the upright yews that you saw when we were in the boxwood garden. The yews frame that garden. So have a look. I think this looks great from every angle. We can put this right over here. And when we serve our afternoon tea, we can bring the flowers with us. I think we will just do one tea sandwich today, and it's going to be an extraordinary tea sandwich. We're doing Coronation chicken. Now, you and I have made this sandwich before, and it is always a hit. So I have the breast meat from a rotisserie chicken, which I just roughly shredded. And to the chicken, I want to add about a tablespoon, maybe a little more, of mayonnaise and the same amount of sour cream. Then I need my mixing fork, which I will try to remember to link in the description box below. I know the last time I used mixing forks, many of you asked from where I bought them. And I bought them on Amazon. And then to turn this into Coronation chicken, I need to add some sweet mango chutney. Again, about a tablespoon. Now, you should be able to find mango chutney in just about any supermarket. I say that because even my market carries it. And I'm not talking about a high-end grocery store. I'm talking about a lower-end chain store. And I will not tell you the name of that store because I just insulted it. And then we have to taste this. It's good, but it will be gooder. I know that's not a real word. If I add more of the chutney. Mixy, mixy. And then a light sprinkling of salt. And a tiny dusting of black pepper. Then we need another taste with a clean fork. Perfect. And to assemble these lovely creatures, I need bread. And I've decided that in future afternoon tea videos, I'm going to start using my own homemade bread. And that's because I can no longer find the really good thinly sliced sandwich bread that my aforementioned market used to carry. So what I'm doing now is just flattening these slices of bread because they are too thick, and tea sandwiches should have very thin slices of bread. And now I want to butter each slice of bread. And the reason we do this is so that the filling doesn't seep through the bread and make it soggy. So the butter acts as a barrier between the filling and the bread. think we will do 2 big sandwiches that we will then cut into smaller sandwiches. And I bought this Kerrygold pure Irish butter, naturally soft. So it comes in this tub, and I find I really like it because it does spread very, very easily. And on with the filling. And I think these sandwiches could benefit from a bit of greenery. So I have some baby arugula leaves here. You might know arugula as rocket. Close the sandwiches. And then I want to remove the crust. And the reason I remove the crust after I fill the sandwich is so that the sandwich will have a clean edge. I'm going to cut one of these sandwiches into triangles. And we can cut the other sandwiches into little rectangles or fingers. And all these trimmings will go into the refrigerator where they will no doubt be enjoyed as a midnight snack. I want to transfer these little sandwiches to a tray. And then I'm going to cover them with a damp towel because we are not ready for our tea time just yet. And the damp towel will keep the sandwiches from drying out. And this is just a barely damp towel. And this can go into the refrigerator. And now it's time to make the glaze for the cake. And I did pop the cake into the freezer just to help it cool down sufficiently. Now this is an interesting looking glaze. We need 3 tablespoons of water, 1.5 tablespoons of either coconut oil or butter. I'm using coconut oil, and I'm guessing the amount here. And 1.5 tablespoons of corn syrup, which is not an ingredient I often use. And I'm sure that is exactly 1.5 tablespoons. And then this goes into the microwave just to melt the coconut oil. That won't take but 15 to 30 seconds. Okay, we are melted. Now we need to add 1.5 cups of confectioner's sugar. And 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder. My tablespoon over here is wet, so I'm going to use 3 teaspoons. Now this is that black cocoa powder that you and I purchased at the Mennonite store some time ago. Black cocoa powder is what they use to make Oreo cookies. And she said to use a hand mixer to mix this, but I'm just going to use a whisk. And I can already tell this is much too thin, so I'm going to add additional confectioner's sugar. So I'm looking for a thick but pourable glaze, and I think we are just about there. Oh, we are there, my friends. Oh, my cake is nice and cold now. I think I'll put some strips of parchment along the edge so I don't make a mess of my cake stand. And there we are. We can let this glaze set up while we assemble the three-tiered tea stand. So I already have my scones on the middle rung, and I have some of that wonderful strawberry jam that you and I made together in early June. And I have creme fraiche over here because I do not have any clotted cream. And I have made clotted cream in the past. It's really easy to do, but you need to remember to put the cream in the oven the night before you wish to eat the clotted cream. And I need a knife for the jam, a knife for the creme fraiche, spoons, my cups and saucers, milk, okay. And then I have the sandwiches, which were in the refrigerator, and I want to arrange those on the lower rung. And I think there's room on the top rung for 2 slices of cake. Obviously, this is not a low-carb afternoon tea. I don't even know if such a thing even exists. But that's the nature of tea. It's a lot of breads, and it is usually a lot of sugar. And just like an after-school treat, which I always used to have when I was a kid, afternoon tea is intended to tide us over between lunch and dinner. And for the tea, I'm going to serve this wonderful Darjeeling autumnal tea that I buy from Tierra Farm. And I did already warm this teapot by pouring boiling water into it and then pouring off the water. And I think we should enjoy our tea and nibbles in the music room. So this is what happened when my sister and I would come home from school. My mother always greeted us with an after-school treat. Very often, it was something decadent that she had just baked, cinnamon rolls being my favorite. And my father told me when he would come home from school, his mother would greet him with homemade bread and homemade butter and homemade jam. They lived on a farm. This, I think, makes an even nicer after-school treat. And what a nice surprise to give your child or maybe your grandchild. Serve them afternoon tea. And of course, adults enjoy afternoon tea just as much as a child would. I certainly do. And afternoon tea also opens the door to teaching proper etiquette, if you're into that sort of thing. Tea sandwiches you would eat just as you would eat any ordinary sandwich. I'm going to eat this right now. The sandwich is amazing. And I forgot to mention that Coronation chicken is so called for a dish that was created for Queen Elizabeth's coronation in 1953. And speaking of manners, you can also teach your child that before they eat their sandwich, they should put the napkin in their lap. And as for the scones, you take the scone and either cut it in half through the middle or tear it apart like this. And then take some clotted cream or creme fraiche or whatever you're using, and do not put it directly on the scone. Instead, put it on the plate. Ditto for the strawberry jam. And then you break off a piece of the scone and use your knife to put a tiny bit of cream and a tiny bit of jam on the scone. I don't need to tell you how delicious these scones are, plus the creme fraiche and the homemade strawberry jam. I cannot wait to tuck into this cake. I've never tried a chocolate zucchini cake. Definitely the right tea to serve with this little meal. Okay, I can tell you already that this cake is super moist, has a beautiful crumb. Oh my goodness, this cake is truly, truly spectacular. As I said, it's very moist, but it's also super chocolatey. The moist texture must come from the zucchini. And we can't even taste the zucchini here, just the chocolate deliciousness. This cake literally melts in your mouth. So whether you are making afternoon tea for your child or grandchild, or for yourself or for your friends, I hope you will give this particular afternoon tea menu a try. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And again, in the next video, we will do a Q&A, so make sure that you have already posted your question for me. And I think we will also make a tomato pie. And until then, please treat yourself very, very well. And I can't wait to see you next time. Bye for now, friends.